Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Zero Talks. I'm your host, Kayla Winter. This is the third episode of our three-part series celebrating Sober October. And for this series, we're talking to Daniel Stiller and Taylor Foxman of Better Rhodes. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Taylor.
Thanks for having us back again.
Woohoo!
Of course.
I see you haven't got changed.
No, that's my one outfit.
You called her
No, but
out. How do you call her out?
we were joking about that, so it's okay. I knew it was coming. I think we could fill probably 20 episodes with you guys. It's been wonderful talking with you. So thank you so much for sharing your insights to all of our listeners.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, this has been great.
All right. So
it's
today,
fun to talk about this. You know, it's just fun to talk about this. There's so much going on, and there's so much to share, and there's so much there's so much passion in the industry. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, and hopefully fun to listen to, because if you guys haven't picked up on it yet, we all love our jobs. We love what we're doing. We love the space and the evolution that the category is going. So it's a great time to be involved in this stuff. So for today, I'd love to talk about just market trends. I mean, your perspective, you directly interact with the consumers and retailers, and you know what they want, what they're buying, what they're asking for. So definitely want to get down into it. And just to start off, I'd love to know, what is your best seller?
Yeah, no, great. Thank you. As I mentioned in episode 1, you'll have to go back to episode 1, is Chris and I originally thought this was all going to be about beer, because that's what we resonated with. That's the product that we thought was the one that everyone would latch on to, because that was our thinking, and we thought we'd be selling beer to guys like us, and that's not where the market is for Better Rhodes. The market is 30 to 50-year-old women, trending lower. Actually, the 35 to 30 to 45 is probably the heart of our market, probably around 50, just over 50% of our sales, and 70% of our sales are wine, with spirits, RTDs, and beer kind of being relatively evenly distributed amongst that last 30%. Our number one selling category was sparkling when we first started, probably for the first year and a half, and now it's red is our number one selling category. It's as I mentioned before, our best selling products are all in the premium level. We look at Luminara, Wander and Found, Naughty Rouge. That's the strength of our market. And again, all those products are kind of at that premium level.
Mm-hmm. Do you see a preference towards bottles over cans?
So it's interesting when the way we categorize it. A lot of times we'll categorize our canned wines as an RTD, a ready to drink, because we look at the occasion that people consume them in. So we always think of like a picnic occasion. There's a can occasion and a wine bottle occasion. But so we classify our wines, our canned wines, as an RTD, and within that category, within the RTD category, the canned wines do really, really well. And I think we can continue to see growth in that. Canned sparklings do very well. There's some canned flat reds that are doing great as well. So it's interesting to kind of understanding where these consumers are buying and why they're buying, and I think that's still, the category is evolving, and we're learning as well. But bottles do outsell cans for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, that's actually kind of the inverse perspective that I feel like a lot of producers that I work with, people that are coming to me and saying, I want to start with a can, because they think that's what's selling. That, the idea of being able to drink these beverages when you're out at the beach, or when you're, exercising or something like that. But it seems like there's still it's really tied into the standard and traditional formats of drinking wine, in particular with those 750 ml bottles.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to what this whole sense of community and conviviality, right? It's still about a celebration of being amongst others, and that's I think that's just so critical to what our narrative around alcohol has been. It's not about drinking something on your own. Sometimes it is, and I'll be the first to tell you after a long week, there's nothing like settling in and having a great glass of whiskey, something that that you're going to savor for a moment. And I understand that kind of alone time, but for the majority of my experiences with alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages, it's about celebration, about being with others, and I think that still plays a really big role. So to me, that could explain why at least in our experience or with our customer base, why bottles still tend to outsell cans. And then, again, the new formats of wine is still, again, they're still relatively new formats.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if consumers are kind of already going into the space with an open mind, who's to say that
Yep.
different kind of formats won't work too? And so it's great to have a platform for people to experiment and innovate.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point. We can create wine differently. It doesn't have to follow traditional methods. We can package it differently. It doesn't have to follow traditional methods. We can name it differently. It doesn't have to follow traditional methods. So we can get really creative with it and be more responsive to the consumer.
Sure, that's great. So I've heard this many times that's the demographic for non-alc wine is female, and that kind of 30 to 50 age range. Is there room to diversify, or is just that where we're at? Those are the people that are going to drink this.
And I'll give my thoughts, and I'd love to hear Taylor's thoughts as well. And I think some of the challenges you say that's your consumer, so then you develop ad campaigns and promotions and packaging around that consumer, and then surprisingly, that's your consumer, right? You start to lay those tracks, and then lo and behold, you're traveling down that same path. So I think we have to constantly challenge that, and we try to do that. We try to introduce different messaging, and our beer sales are still tend to be to over-index male versus our average consumer. Spirit sales as well. Our collection sales and subscription sales surprisingly tend to over-index towards women. So we're still learning. I think our consumers are also still figuring out where they sit. But yeah, it's a challenge when you start identifying a demographic and then you start catering to that demographic, then yeah, it's difficult to start breaking free of that and keeping an open mind of all the potential markets out there. So I'd be interested in Taylor's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like anything else, I think it's just like opening people's eyes to what the options are out there. And again, I sound like a broken record, but like the more options and more optionality and the more mainstream it becomes, like the less weird it is for everyone, like I was at, I don't even know if I told Dan this story, but I was at a dinner with a bunch of investors because I work for a bunch of venture capital firms as well. And I ordered a drink, and I kind of ordered it fairly discreetly, and I ordered like a Budweiser Zero or some, non-alcoholic beer. And all the guys at the table, because I come from alcohol, said, "Oh, we'll just have whatever Taylor ordered." And which historically would be like literally like very smoky whiskey on the rocks. And these 10 guys get these non-alcoholic beers, and they look over and they're like, "Was this on?" Oh, I said, "You just said you'll have whatever I had." And so I think even quite frankly, not even as much like a full integration into like non-alcoholic beverages only, but like even I've heard guys be like, look, like, if they're at a tailgate or if they're at a wedding, they like now like interchanging the non-alcoholic beverages with alcoholic beverages, so that they have, they're able to feel a little bit more in control throughout the day. And different demographics, it's the same thing. It's just like educating different demos of whether it's like different like groups of people in society. I think everyone's open to it. It's just a matter of just like figuring out like how it fits into their respective lifestyles. So I think again, it's going to come to marketing. Like a lot of the stuff that I had spent my whole career on is like marketing to different demographics. I
Mhm.
think a lot of it's going to be sampling, a lot of it's going to be education, a lot of it's going to be marketing to these people. And then I think there's no doubt that there's opportunity with like every type of, I don't know what you think, Dan, but I think like the possibilities are kind of endless, you know?
So I want to share. I had a great opportunity to speak to Rob Fink from Big Drop, one of the founders, and that basically he was working in the advertising industry, and the he would be taking these groups out, and for them it was like once a month they got to go out with their their advertising partner, but he was doing it 4 or 5 times a week. So it's like, so everyone going out with him was like, hey, this is our once a month, let's go crazy. And he's like, at one point he's like, okay, this has got to stop because they're doing it once a month, I've got to do it 3 or 4 times a week.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
Story of my background.
well,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, exactly. So he was like, well, there's got to be a better alternative. And that was basically that created the foundation for Big Drop. And, just that idea that, everyone, I don't want to stop. I want people to celebrate. I want people to be having a great time. I want to be having a great time. I don't want to stop anything. I just can't manage that level of alcohol all the time. So let me have something that tastes great, that looks great, that makes me feel comfortable. It celebrates, I'm an adult, and but doesn't take me down that path. And look, we're all getting older. So as my dad says, well, it beats the alternative. But it just makes more sense. And it's younger people are questioning the role that alcohol plays in our lives, and it's great. Like it's the same questions that have challenged the negative association with cannabis, and it's the same people that have challenged what we consider a family meal to be, and challenged the role that sugar plays in our lives. Like it's the same health and wellness movement.
Shifting
And
perception.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, again, I don't have the data to back it up, but it seems that a lot of times women are on the forefront of challenging traditionally held narratives, and that could be a whole sociological study that would be fascinating as well. But we see it, we definitely see it on our with our demographic, our data, that it's predominantly women that are willing to challenge perceptions, be confident in their choices, and try different things.
And that makes sense that women are, challenging it, but they're challenging human experiences that are not unique to just females or just certain ages and certain demographics. So I totally understand that concept of, yes, let's continue to empower and to, cater towards this demographic who's paving the way. However, at some point we got to stop making just pink bottles, right?
I think I totally agree, and I think that probably does a disservice to the leadership that that we've the challenging scope of that is it's not about pink bottles, and there's so much research to show that women don't buy things because it's pink. They buy great quality products. Like so just create a great quality product. One that's sophisticated and caters to what they're looking for. And it's not, anyways, I think there's enough studies out there that women are leading the charge, but it's not because they'll lead the charge. People will follow quickly, but it'll always be about great product, great branding, and not being kind of stereotypical, I think.
Sure. And that's slightly different than what we've seen in Europe, as far as I have read and understand. And in UK specifically, and some of the other European markets, it's a little less women focused and a little less wine focused as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's been predominantly spirits and beer driven. And that's where, again, that was a lot of the data that we had when we started the business. And that's where we thought the business was going to go. Sure. And like we actually debated whether we were going to carry any wines at all. So and I will be the first one so Trudy, who heads product acquisition and producer relations, she's like, we should really carry wines. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that's where the market's going. And I'll be the first to tell her that, yes, Trudy, you were absolutely right. And I was again, I could not have been more wrong.
Trudy saving the day.
Trudy saving the day. Absolutely. Would not be, wasn't the last time. It won't be. It wasn't the first time. It won't be the last time either. Trudy tends to save the day.
So how are things going in Canada? I mean, you have a Canadian online platform, and with all the trends that we've been talking about over the last 3 episodes, are you seeing the same things up there?
Yeah, we are actually. Canada tends to follow Europe a little more closely. So when we went into the Canadian market, we were actually, again, it's a much smaller market, but we were astounded by how much established competition there was in the market from an online perspective. We entered the market with a smaller SKU set, and just kind of thinking that's just, we didn't need as many SKUs. We wanted to have even a more curated experience just because of the size of the market. But Canada continues to grow at double-digit growth. We will this month we will triple our January sales in October. So we continue to grow the business. We've just signed 2 of the leading retailers in Canada, if not North America, to do some big category launches for the non-alc space. And what's so interesting about that with those 2 launches is that they're in non-traditional alcohol environments. So they're in unlicensed environments. So again, it speaks to that. This goes back to episode 2, but that idea of where can we find opportunities to enhance the customer experience and drive incremental revenue? It doesn't always have to be in a traditional licensed environment. I think about coffee shops, and I remember being in Italy and having a prosecco with my espresso. What a great opportunity for us to continue to celebrate that and give people this great experience of a prosecco, but not have to be in a licensed environment. There are far more unlicensed environments than there are licensed environments. In a bookstore, wouldn't it be great to sit down and have a glass of wine while you're reading a book?
Oh man, they never get rid of me.
Exactly. Wouldn't it be great? Like just kind of get into a nice cozy environment. And I think there's so many different environments where we can think differently about the space and what does it mean and what we're trying to sell. We're not selling bottles of wine. We're talking about community, about engagement, about encouraging people to unite and to think about everyone around the table. And that, to me, I guess, may be one of my biases, but why I still like the idea of a bottle of something of a shareable experience, or creating a great cocktail, not just for yourself, but for your friends and family. And that the celebration of creating that cocktail, I think is as important as the cocktail itself.
Absolutely. It's that the habit, repeatability, putting yourself in that, different space, not doing what you did all day, and then having almost a routine at the end of the day that gets you into a different mindset. No, I definitely think that's what a lot of these products are offering people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taylor, I'd love to hear from you on what you see, the successful brands in the market today, and we can isolate that to North America. What are they doing to be successful? What are they doing to differentiate themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where, from what I've seen so far, I mean, a lot of them, it really kind of comes down, I know it sounds really bad, but it comes down to just having a really good, actually it doesn't sound bad. That sounds better when I say it out loud. Having just a really good product. I mean, I interviewed Amanda from Naughty today on a podcast that I do. And I said, look, for other brands coming to market, out of everything they should focus on, what would be the primary thing to focus on? And she was like, if you don't have a good product, everything else doesn't really matter. And so I do think there is something to be said for that too, because I think it's a good point in the sense of retention of business. You can have a media blitz, you can do some big partnership, you can sell them. There's 100 things you could do to get awareness, right? But then when it comes to maintaining your consumer base and adding and growing to it, you have to have a good product. Like Dan said, the same thing. So I think, one is developing a really strong product that actually tastes good, which then equates to people wanting to repurchase the product, which is quite frankly the most important thing in my mind, is like trying it, but then also wanting to purchase it again and again. And then the other is a big focus of mine, which Dan knows is what I help all of the founders with that I advise, is around what I call like executive visibility. I think it's really important for brand founders, especially for new to market brands, to develop what I call like a founder focus and get out there, talk about their background, especially in the non-alc space, of like how they got into the sector, how it's impacted them, you know, what their thoughts are in the future of the space, education, all that stuff. Anyway, I think that one is just creating a quality product, I think does differentiate these brands. And then two is people that less about storytelling around the liquid. I don't know if you guys are catching on to a theme here, but more just really like your own. And Dana, I'll kick it back to you to get your thoughts around that. But I think it's really important for these brands to really explain their, not necessarily they have to go into any personalized detail, just more just like their own journey into getting into this space and how they created the product and stuff like that. I think those to me seem to be the two kind of winning pieces. But I don't know, Dan, what do you think?
And people connect to people, right? And so giving a brand a face is going to make you connect to it on a different level than you would just the product itself. That makes sense. Yeah, Dan, anything to add on that?
I think Taylor said it, right? It's product. You have to have a good product. And that's just the hurdle. Like that's just now the price of entry. Before, price of entry was the product had to be non-alcoholic, and that was good enough. Now price of entry is it has to be good. And I can tell you from our own experiences is that product that would have been on our shelf last year isn't going to make the shelf this year. There's just too much competition. The product has to be good. Now, that's not good enough, because when you get on our shelf, you'll be on the shelf with a bunch of other good products. So now what? And how do you communicate? How do you differentiate? And I think that's really important. And you have to dedicate budget to it. You have to understand different ways to do it and be creative, get liquid on lips, get people to try it. And like you said, people do identify with individuals. So you have to be, and I think it's, to Amanda's credit, that's one thing she does really well is get out and find people and celebrate. She's very much the face of the brand. So I think that's something that's important. And so what I'd encourage producers to think about is having a great product is the cost of entry. That's how you enter the game. And after that, but that's not good enough to win in the game. You have to do, like Taylor said, educate, not just around the liquid itself, but the story, how you use it, how it interacts, what's your purpose. There's a lot. We work with a lot of producers and help them communicate and help get that message across through our different channels, through our podcasts, and it's just all part of building that presence and staying top of mind. And we use our subscription model a lot to get liquid on lips, to get people to try the product. We use our curated collections to insert a new product into our collection of 6 great wines, or 4 or 5 great sparklings. We get the product in there so people have an opportunity to try it. And so for us, first you earn your way onto our shelf, and then you earn your way into the customer's kind of repeat purchase cycle.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk more about that subscription model that you guys have and how is that going. And in terms of sales, are you seeing a lot of consumers gravitate towards that kind of a setup?
Yeah, no, it's something that we initially started just to try to promote some of the new products coming on, but now it represents close to 15% of our overall sales, and it continues to grow. So I'm really encouraged to see that, because what that's showing is people want to continue to learn about the space. People want to continue to try new products. It's not just, I'm trying something, this is what I like, I'll never, I love chocolate ice cream, I'm never going to try anything else. People are continuing to try new products, continue wanting to learn about the space. And that to me shows the strength of the industry, that people want to continue to learn and engage.
Yeah, definitely. They're not, I think people understand that it is a dynamic category. It's not just this is what it is now, like it or leave it. This is what it is now. Check back in 6 months. It's going to be very different. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, it's for us, it's a gateway to our consumers for a lot of producers entering the market. Get into the subscription, get out to a couple hundred people, and get them high intention users to try your product, and show that you've created a great product, and that gives you the opportunity to tell your story.
Love it. All right, guys, I'd love to give you each a moment to talk. If there's anything else you want our listeners to know, before we end this series.
Taylor, I'm gonna throw that over to you, so it gives me a little bit of time to think.
No, I think we're like the worst at marketing our own services, but yeah, I mean, we all work together. I think based on everything kind of everyone's heard, I will say, like, we are here for brands, kind of across the board. I hope that's helpful, but in various different ways. And, my expertise is helping to take emerging brands and help grow and scale them in different ways, and leveraging my background and core competencies, to help develop that story and that messaging, and create that founder profile, and alongside other things. So anyway, just know we're collectively, Dan, myself, and the team, we're here for everyone, and it's an exciting time, but it's also, per this whole conversation, it's also a very overwhelming journey, right? Like, especially given how many brands are there and stuff. So obviously, in a different way, you all are there for these brands, but I just want to say we're here for brands of all sizes, and whether it's formally or informally, we're here to help. And I think it's just such a welcoming community, and so I think we're all really trying to do our part to help grow this industry as fast as we can. I won't speak for Dan, but that's my 2 cents.
No, that's great. No. Real quick, what's the best way for brands to contact you guys?
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah, the best way is to reach out to Trudy. So Trudy at betterrhodes.com, and then Rhodes, RHODES, so betterrhodes.com. She manages all our onboarding and our producer relationships, and she's awesome. She's just a great person to know, great person to have in the industry. But yeah, no, I echo what Taylor said, is that we love working with great producers, help them and to help them get into the market, and to deliver their product, help educate the consumer, and we've got a ton of data that we like to work with, and share to help kind of grow this industry. I do believe in the tide raises all boats. I think the community has been incredibly supportive of everyone.
Yeah.
And I hope to continue to see that. There's a lot of great people.
Being the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association, for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah.
Fantastic group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The industry's been, I've worked in a bunch of different industries, and it's a pretty cool industry. It's got some fantastic people in it, it's just great, great characters as well, and passionate people, and it's a fun place to be part of, for sure.
Agreed. Okay, so if you want to know anything about the space, email Trudy. and then thank her for convincing Dan and Chris to put non-alcoholic wine on the Better Rhodes platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if you're a producer and want to get on, definitely reach out to Trudy.
And then if retailers, on-premise accounts. If anyone wants to work with you guys as well, should they be emailing Trudy, or is there another avenue?
Yeah, I'd love for them to reach out to me personally, dan@betterrhodes.com. And yeah, we will sign them up onto our wholesale platform, and we can get going right away. We can have it turned around and products shipped out to you within 24 hours. We have no problem doing that.
Okay, so no reason not to, guys. Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Taylor, so very much for being on our 3-part series, special Sober October series for Zero Talks. It's been wonderful talking with you guys. I could record another 5 episodes, but we'll call this a day for now, and then maybe reconvene in 6 months when the category is completely different, as we talked about.
Perfect. It won't take 6 months.
Sure. Yeah, we'll talk
Thanks,
to you next
Kayla. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Bye,
Thanks
guys.
again.
And thank you, everyone,
Bye.
for listening to another episode of Zero Talks. Have a good day. Happy Sober October.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.